Hello, Dr. Weinberg. It's Sarah Curtis here, and I'm just going to do a brief overview of my research outline and just to demonstrate that I am able to effectively use my device to record my voice and my screen while presenting. So let's get into it. Well, I should start off by saying my topic is gender pay inequities in China and the United States. So I'll be exploring that for my research presentation. For part one, demographics of health issue affecting women, I'll be defining what the gender pay inequity is and how it affects women, such as exploring how women earn less per dollar than men globally and what exactly the pay gap is. I'll mention how this has been a trend for a while. I could show statistics through research that maybe depicts charts of how the gender pay gap has shifted globally over the years since data was really being collected on it. And I can also study and mention the effects that the gender pay gap has on women in their society, such as health effects that the pay gap has on women. I've already found one study that found a correlation between mood disorders and gender pay inequality, and it was found that women paid less than men were at higher risk of depression and anxiety than women who were paid more than men. So there's definitely a lot of interesting research to share there. For part two, demographics of countries, this is where my research will be confined to China and the United States. I will show the gender pay gap in those two countries specifically. I already found one study that mentions how the pay gap in the United States is narrowing while the gender pay gap is widening in China. So that will be something to compare and contrast, and perhaps here even bring in some charts that show the differences between the two, and I could share the statistics depicting the pay in each country. Another study found that the ratio between male and female earnings in the United States has increased from 60 to 79%. So again, the conditions are seemingly getting better in the United States, but it's not the same case for China, and this is where I could present research on that information in that topic. For part three, cultural similarities and differences among women, I will compare the similarities and differences between working women in the United States and China. I will explore why pay is less for women in the US and how that may be connected to social or cultural implications, or what social and cultural implications have made it so that there is a pay gap. And I will do the same for China, see what social and cultural implications have led to this pay gap. And also it could be a great place to see what factors are not responsible for this and which are. So I still have to find the sources for these areas, but the research has been very promising, and I've been finding a lot of sources, as a few already were mentioned. I have more for the next few slides, so I'm definitely excited to find more research on these topics. For part four, ethical considerations in action, this is where I can look at what is being done or what isn't being done by each country's government to alleviate the pay gap or to help it, to stop it. So I did find this one article that mentioned how in 1963 the Equal Pay Act was passed to try to squash gender inequality, and since then, that was a long, about 60 years ago off the top of my head, and legislation has been improved to enhance that bill in 2008, 2009, and 2019, but the bills have pretty much remained stationary because it's not getting the necessary approval from certain businesses or Republicans. So there's still legal work to be done in the United States, and I would love to find information on what the Chinese government is doing to address this pay gap and if anything has been done. So I can also discuss specific national and global groups that are non-governmental here and see what impact they may have had in getting rid of the gender pay gap, or what forces are rallying for pay equity in each country. And then part 5 will be my summary and conclusion. So far I have already concluded that though the gender pay gap has decreased in the US, it's still present and even on trend to keep growing in China. So it still has there's still progress to be made. But my ultimate conclusion for this presentation here is that I'm so excited to conduct more research and learn more about this topic. Everything I found so far has already been so interesting, and I'm really enjoying reading up on it. So thank you so much for coming to this short presentation. Bye. And I also forgot to mention that I also have the references slide, that won't be forgotten. So these are just some of the sources that I've included so far in this presentation, but as I said, I have a lot more to share and more to find, so I'm very excited to get into all this. Thanks again.